Hello and welcome back to Inside Music Curation. It's the most wonderful time of the year when we get to look back at the year. And I've got my favorite music curators here, the team from Feed Media Group, to talk about all of the amazing things that happened in 2022 in music, favorite albums, favorite songs, favorite artists. These guys are working hard every day to curate music for businesses. We do a lot in the fitness space. So they're on the cutting edge, they're trendsetters, they know what's happening, following the charts, understanding audiences. And today's the day that we get to step back and say it's not what, the businesses are looking for necessarily, but what are you guys listening to this year and what have you noticed in trends? So I think it's a fun conversation to end up the year and really dig into what you guys are digging. So who wants to kick off and talk about their favorite album of 2022?
I'll jump in. So this year, I love hip hop music, and I love 90s hip hop music. So just recently, Nas put out King's Disease 3, which is awesome album. If you love old school hip hop, Nas never disappoints. So this track is amazing in my eyes. And I think maybe last year I might have picked another, a couple Nas tracks or Nas albums, but he always does it for me.
Keeps delivering. Any other hip hop albums on the list this year?
Pusha T. It's Almost Dry. I think that's probably the album that I listen to most in my Jeep driving around Los Angeles.
That's a great visual, honestly.
Yeah. For the top down in LA, right?
That's a huge barometer right there. If you could put the top down or the windows down, and you're bumping it, that's it right there, right?
Especially in LA, man. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I kind of went a little, I don't know, off the beaten path with one of my favorite albums. It's a guy also LA, drummer, multi-instrumentalist, producer named Lewis Cole. He put an album out just actually not too long ago in October called Quality Over Opinion. And it's just really, I mean, I come from a jazz music background, and he kind of incorporates a lot of he's all over the place, which I dig because there's 20 tracks on this album and there's so much variety and, a lot of like interesting sort of funky stuff with lyrics that may not make sense or lyrics that are just kind of like weird and fun, and just some really great musicians on this album. So if you're kind of in the mood for like a wild ride of variety, would highly recommend checking that one out for sure.
Mine sort of fell more into the singer-songwriter kind of folky category, but both I think it's the second or third album from Lizzie McAlpine called 5 Seconds Flat was one of my most played. I think her songwriting style is really interesting and emotive, and she does a lot of cool stuff there. And then a duo called Penny and Sparrow, their album Ollie Ollie was a really, like fun and like kind of eclectic mix within that style of like just very interesting lyricism, poetic way of describing things. So that was a fun listen for me this year.
And Melissa, I wanted to drop in another one of mine. I was kind of split between two, but this last year, I've been really paying attention to Afro beats, and one of the favorite songs that I had last year was Essence with Justin Bieber and Wizkid. And Wizkid came out with a new album this year, More Love, Less Ego. So, if anyone's looking for Afro beats, this is a great album.
And a good motto to live by.
Absolutely.
I'm not kidding. That album is great. That album's really good. I've been like stuck in this like nebulous field of like this collision of R&B, punk, and rap just colliding into each other. And a couple of the albums I really enjoyed this year was RT Strange's Farm to Table, which is kind of like if you were to mix Manchester Orchestra and like vibes of like Frank Ocean together, and then some house and some other stuff in there. It's super interesting. And then the Nova Twins, they put out this album called Supernova. It's actually really funny. Me and Arturo had met up in Hollywood earlier this year, and we were going past the Roxy, and we saw this long line of people trying to go into the Roxy. It was like maybe like 4:30, so the show starts at like 8, and it was for the Nova Twins. So I like immediately listened to that record, and wow, that record is wild, but it's so interesting. And to see not only women of color producing and making super weird, cool music in like the alt realm, it's just very empowering to see kids producing and making music with guitars and electronics.
That's great. So we had some singer-songwriter, we had some like throwback 90s hip hop, and we had some wild rides. I think 2022 was a bit of a wild ride, literally. And I love that, we've got a little bit of music discovery, right? Like, one, had you heard of that band before you drove by and saw the line, or was that your cue to like check them out?
Literally, that was sort of like I'd seen the name, right? Like sometimes you just are inundated with the name, and then you see the crowd and you're like, wait, what? And it's a pure catalyst for interest.
That's great. We talk about music discovery before on Inside Music Curation, and I feel like the venue is kind of like a restaurant. If you're looking for a restaurant, you want to know it's good, you go to the one that's packed with the line out the door. When you see a show with the line out the door, if you haven't heard of them, go home, and check it out. That's great.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, albums obviously are still so important to me, like the full scale album. But if you have to go in and hone in on some key songs this year, what really stood out for you guys?
For me, going back to that barometer of, for me, it's what I'm replaying and what I'm getting the feeling like when I get in my car and I'm cranking that music down or cranking that music up, putting those windows down. That's what I go by. This year, it was a hard choice. I actually have three. I have a song "Pull Up" from Coffee, a reggae star, great artist. If you haven't heard of her, I recommend going and checking out her music. Another one was more on the dance side, which was "Forget About Me" with featuring Aluna with Diplo. That's a great track. That was a great track for me. Kind of pumped me up when I was working out. So that was a great song there. And there's a new song that just came out a few weeks back by Lecrae. And the song is titled "Good Lord." And it samples some James Brown. And you turn this on, the horns are going and you're just vibing to the song. Just make sure you crank it up and, start driving because you'll love it.
All right. Who's got another good song to put the windows down for?
Ooh, Doechii featuring SZA. Persuasive for me was just like the chillest song of the year. For me, I loved like the vibe, SZA's guitar work, and also just like the lyrics. It's just very, very chill. One of my favorite. And then Kendrick Lamar. I thought his record had some pretty substantial songs that were like, I don't know, they spoke to me and many others. So those would be mine.
I feel like we're in such a sort of playlist focused world now that I think it's harder to say, okay, what's your favorite album? What's your favorite track from the album? It's sort of like, okay, well, what's favorite track you heard on a playlist, for me, I didn't first hear this on a playlist. I first heard it in one of the 545,000 TikTok videos using this song. And it's called Deep Down featuring Never Dull. It's a house music DJ producer named Never Dull, and he teamed up with A-Lock and Kenny Dope to create this track, and it has 99 million streams on Spotify, and it's a party. It's a disco infused house party, and it's great.
guess for me, I've got a few picks. I think I was maybe one of few people not as excited about the first single Beyonce released, but I really loved Cuff It, and the energy that brought to it. I felt like that felt like kind of signature Beyonce innovation, of taking that to the next level. So I really liked that one. I think we should definitely talk about Harry Styles' album is a big one this year, and I had a couple favorites off of that that are slowly getting traction. Music for a Sushi Restaurant and Satellite. The drum part on Satellite is really, really cool, and really, really clean. And from a sort of like country and storytelling perspective, there's a song from Hardy and Lainey Wilson called Wait in the Truck that is kind of in this weird subgenre of justifiable murder ballads in country. It sort of joins the ranks of like a Goodbye Earl in a much less celebratory way. But yeah, just a really interesting storytelling. You're like kind of, yeah, way to explore in a song. So highly recommend listening to that one if you haven't yet.
It's like going to be our trend for 2023 is tasteful murder ballads.
Yeah. Let's trademark that now. Justifiable homicide.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's such a funny, like kind of like Mike was saying, it's such a tough question, right? I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of songs get released in a year, and just, it's for so many, I like songs for so many different reasons. Obviously, like from a practical standpoint, we curate for certain needs. And so I feel like a lot of the times when I'm listening to songs, I'm obviously listening first for need in a lot of cases. So I'm interested actually to ask kind of how you all decided on these, but the songs that I decided on, I kind of chose not necessarily because I love them as a song, but when I think about something that stood out, whether it's the production quality, the kind of interest of the song in the space that it's in. So something like an Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras, to me, when you get the new Music Friday drops every week, you see these tracks and you're like, I think I'm going to understand what I'm probably about to hear from a lot of this. And when I click play, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And to me, I think that's something with music just becoming more homogenized and, similar and all these things. That's something that stood out to me. And, I think also the Lizzo album just had a lot of, it's maybe recency bias. I saw her at the Chase Center a couple of weeks ago, and great live, like what a live performer. To Be Loved was such a cool track from that album. The sort of playfulness that she has with her lyrics and the vibe of that song and seeing it live was like a true party for sure. And then, the track Supermodel from Mainskin, who I'd never heard of before that, kind of became a big viral hit as well. Just kind of unexpected sounding song for me. So I'm interested to kind of hear how you all approach this, picking your favorites this year as well.
Little from column A, little from column B. I forget what station I was curating for, possibly Daily Burn, and when I was curating that, it was the Stretch station, and that's where I kind of got like the Doechii, the SZA, the Persuasive. I just heard it. I think it was on Lorem, and I was like, yeah, that's the one. But yeah, absolutely. Column A and column B.
So stumbling upon it at work, stumbling upon lines outside venues. And then I want to talk a little bit about new artists too. So I'm curious, when you guys share some of the new and up and comers, how you came across them, whether it was TikTok or charts, or where you guys are tracking these guys down. Claire, who did you have for a new up and comer this year?
I was thinking of a sort of long list of new female artists in country that I'm really excited about. I think we're really starting to see slightly more equalizing shift, and a force to be able to do that in a genre that's been really male dominated and continues to be. So I'm really excited about people like Haley Witters. Her album was really great. Priscilla Block. Madeline Edwards and Megan Maroney are all like just putting out really great music, and I'm excited to see how they'll keep moving the needle.
That's exciting.
I found all of my new artists on TikTok this year. I got to get a hobby, man. You know, way too much time on that app.
No, that's great stuff, though, Mike. I think you and I have shared,
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
artists.
we throughout the year we've traded some Slack links, right? This is a hip hop artist named Joey Valance, who he might have actually been a 2021 discovery, but he's just a young, really energetic, very sort of, reminiscent of Beastie Boys. He's some arguably too close to the Beastie Boys, but still that's fresh for a lot of people, especially younger folks, and it's really exciting to see how he's blown up this year. He'll have a big 2023 as well, I think. I came across a girl. She's from it's like a Canadian folk pop. Her name is Billy Ann. Very unassuming. She just recorded cover songs on an acoustic guitar on TikTok, but her voice is just like butter, like Karen Carpenter style. And I'm like, oh man. And sure enough, she just released her first ever original song. I think she just got picked up by a big label, so I think next year will be big for her. And then there's another guy, if you want, he's a white gentleman from Newcastle, England, and he sounds like D'Angelo, and he's awesome. And he goes by Alowe, Alowe. I think he's got maybe 200 followers on Spotify. He's got one little song on there, but I think next year is going to be his year.
That's awesome.
We'll see.
For me,
Go ahead, Armando.
all right. Yeah, for me, my artist is Bishop Briggs. I started to follow her back in 2019. I was creating a station about empowering women, and she had a song called Champion. And her vocals are amazing, and you can tell in her music that she pours her heart out. She has a new song called Revolution, which is pretty amazing. She has songs that are ballads. The last couple of years, she's gone through some things. Her sister had cancer. She lost her sister to cancer. She's been throwing out some ballads. These things will make you cry. And then recently she had a new baby, which inspired her new song Revolution and a few other tracks. And I'm just waiting for her to have her breakout year, because she deserves it. She's an awesome artist.
I think she's got a new label, so I think that she'll be a priority for next year for sure.
Very good.
Yeah, one of the artists or new artists, I guess they're not necessarily new, but the way I kind of thought of this question was new artists that would be emerging in 2023. And Armando, he sent me a link for Lucky Day, and what I loved about the Lucky Day record was how it had like this really dope 90s R&B vibe, but it was very refreshed. And that being said, like I started looking at how he was kind of getting accepted into the urban market, into the regular pop market, and his growth has been pretty steady. He has released a record this last year, but I'm pretty sure, given the tours and things of that nature, he's gonna blow up. That guy he's really talented.
Yes, you see the nominations that he's getting. So
Yeah.
Every year it's something great that he's putting out.
Yeah. And the last thing is Domi and Jay Beck, which for whatever reason, I feel like these two are going to be on a lot of singles coming up in the future. Just playing their style. They've already been on a ton of stuff with like Tyler, the Creator, and oh man, I'm kind of blanking on the other one, but they're a great duo. Fantastic musicians. but I really do think they're going to have their time next year.
Yeah, nice. Go for it, Matt.
I was just gonna say that the artist I was thinking of he's probably not a new artist, but someone who's kind of probably more behind the scenes producing for a lot of people and songwriting, who's started putting out his own music and getting some traction late this year is Fred Again, kind of British DJ producer. I think he's gonna be one of these people to watch come this time next year during Grammy season, and he's gonna do a lot of stuff in 23.
Yeah, and collaborations came up a lot for us this year. I feel like we saw a lot more collaborations happening in pop music. So there's new artists, there's artists that are kind of making some big moves. And I was confessing to you guys, I was trying to find new music that I had found in 2022, and similar to our fitness demographic, everything was 2021. It just like takes me a little bit to catch up. But one name that was new for me this year was Madison Cunningham. I started listening to, she came out with a new album this year, and just like masterful guitar work, beautiful voice. Like I think we'll be hearing more from her as well. What do you guys have on the list for some move makers and people shaking up the industry?
For me, I mean, we've talked about this artist before, and Juan and I will swap the tracks. But Raul Alejandro, he has a new album that just came out in November. And this guy's putting out hits. He's a songwriter. He can rap, he can dance. He's featured in a lot of collaborations. With Shakira, Bad Bunny. So I'm expecting a lot of traction in the future. Other artists collaborating with him, reaching out to him, because he puts out some great music.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a few more Latin artists join the sort of household name ranks a la Bad Bunny. I would sort of put Sebastian Yatra and Manuel Turizo on that list as well. I think they'll start making a more mainstream name for themselves as well, which I think will be cool. I just wanted to shout out, since I haven't yet at this point, and is sort of an interesting case study in releasing music in 2022. There's a sort of alt country general umbrella artist, Zach Bryan, who released a 37-song album in May and followed it up with a 9-song EP in July, and then has been finally doing his first real big tour, and has sort of been real-time releasing songs about being on tour. And it's just a really interesting, seeing his experience in real time, and having there not be that year lag in between then when you get to hear it. So I think he's got 1 Grammy nom, but yeah, so I think there'll be more coming from that as well.
I'm interested to see, speaking of prolific artists, but also looking at the sort of, it's a big world, so sometimes we get so focused on what's happening here, but there's an artist who's been around for a little bit, who has done surprisingly well all of a sudden in the UK where she's based. Her name is Little Simz. Little Simz put a record out earlier this year, won the Mercury Prize over there, won 2 NME awards, won the Brit Award, very, very quietly, just yesterday, put out an entire new album just to put it out, and it's awesome. And I think she checked the box of making moves in the UK, but I feel like hopefully, we'll start to hear more about her here in the States, because she's super talented.
Yeah, and I had the DJ producer duo, Sophie Tucker. I think they have been releasing music for a while, and they put an album out, I think it was this year, called Wet Tennis, that got a lot of play. They were featured in the US Open kind of tennis commercials and promos this year, which was cool. They're starting to play some bigger shows, and they put out really interesting kind of dance dance music. I think that they're kind of getting in the kind of starting to define what DJs are playing now at festivals. That sort of housey kind of interesting vibe. So I think they're going to have a pretty big 23 as well.
Awesome. I mean, lots of even changes, right, in how music is coming out, right? Like you've got 37 song albums. You've got obviously a lot more people putting, singles out, and which makes them be able to deliver a lot faster, like you were saying, Claire. And then we've seen so much change in the genres. And if you have a chance to check out our end of year music report, these guys, kind of cranked through the data and looked at what was happening. And there were some really interesting shifts happening in the genres themselves. Claire, do you want to kick that conversation off on some music that you saw that maybe was unexpected or took genre for a different turn?
Yeah, I think we can year after year we see more. I think the umbrella of pop music getting bigger and bigger and incorporating more and more genres, which I think is really exciting too, especially from a production standpoint. I think with what we're seeing more incorporating of like dance beats and production into pop music. I think artists who've really been making waves with that is like a Tate McRae, and yeah, so it's fun to see, more people being welcomed to the table in that way.
That track she sings on 1035 with Tiesto, that was on my tracks of the year, I think.
Yeah, it's infectious, and the pairing, because she has another collab with, oh gosh, I'm gonna blank. Anyways, yeah, she's working with like the big name people now too, and you're like, oh, okay, like I see this is making some moves for sure.
I think that idea of the pop umbrella, like you said so well, like it seems like it was not too long ago when pop was, bubblegum, Katy Perry, very polished, happy sounding music. And all of a sudden here we are. And like, it feels like there's more, just so many more genres and styles of music that are heard on pop stations. So I think that's a really interesting to see how that umbrella keeps growing over the years, whether it's, we saw a lot of pop punk this year getting a lot of traction, and, Afro beats, reggaeton, all these different styles of music now becoming mainstream is such an interesting thing to watch.
And R&B crept up as well, right? I think, Juan, you had an R&B.
Yeah.
On this page.
Well, it's less of like, well, it's more like R&B, but it's more just fusion, of urban and what is necessarily rock music, whether it be indie or metal or hardcore. There is honestly a generational talent that I see right now, which is Foshi. Foshi honestly is an incredible vocalist, incredible musician, and an incredible producer. She has all three: knockdown, straight kill. The latest album she put out, honestly, it blurs the line of like, what is pop? What is rock? And sometimes she'll even give you like a house song with like a little bit of like a postal service type like indie in it. And you're like, what? It's an incredible ride, and I think that for me personally, I love the ride, and artists that give me the ride and give me like a full sonic experience, those are the ones that I'll end up listening to time and time again. And so for Foshi to come out with the album that she did this last year, and for, not for her not to be as well, I mean, she is becoming more popular, but, for her to have come out from the roots as she did, it's an incredible story.
There's a pop artist or artist that I've been following for a while. And her name, she goes by Death by Romy. So she is considered, it's dark pop. She's goth. She has a unique style. She said she was influenced by Lady Gaga and, Tim Burton. So you bring those together, that's Death by Romy. She's incredible vocalist. She just came out with a new album about a month ago, but the previous albums before that are great as well. So highly recommended there.
Oh my gosh, time flies when you're talking about good music. Let's try to wrap this up for everyone, but I'd love to hear, what do you guys think we're going to see in 2023 again? 2022 is a wild ride, new artists, people coming back, throwback, pop, R&B, reggaeton. It was really all across the map. What do you think we're going to see in 2023? Let's just do a quick around.
For me, with the resurgence of '90s music, I'm hoping to see a lot of hip hop and R&B collaborations. Especially featuring female artists, and I really hope to hear some collaborations with SZA. That new album is fantastic, so that's going to be great to see.
Kind of piggybacking as well, I think, there were some really big tracks that sampled very nostalgic songs this year. Big Lotto, Big Energy, and Super Freaky Girl, Nicki Minaj, and the I'm Blue or I'm Good. So I feel like as the millennial generation continues to get older, and we still love those songs of the 80s and 90s, like I it's such a win to be able to introduce those songs to the new audience. So I think samples and of really nostalgic hits is going to be something that continues on here.
Yeah, I think even the what we've talked about a lot is just duets and collaborations. I think the nature of kind of like social media and how streaming plays are set up now, it's becoming a tried and true strategy of sort of widening the base in which you're able to reach people. So sometimes that's within genre, some that's outside of genre, but I think we all benefit from the innovation that gets seen in those collaborations.
I didn't have an answer for this, but there is one thing that has been striking me on my head so hard for next year, and that is we're going to be seeing a lot of female producers, young ones. The reason why I feel that way is just I'm seeing so many of them pop up, and you're getting this information from Fender and Gibson, some of the biggest years for instruments, and the demographic that's buying that are women. And honestly, that makes me feel great for 2023.
Yeah, I read last night guitar sales are up 10% from last year, which were up like 15% from the year prior. So it's more young people are buying guitars. So personally, I'm excited. I want more guitars, please. I think we're going to see in 2023 some more hip hop influenced by house music. I think that Beyonce opened that door. People had been doing it. She wasn't the first, but she certainly opened the door for a lot of other artists to build upon. In the new year, I think we're going to see more alt R&B, more neo soul. I also do think, though, and it's interesting and it's a little scary, but it's also fascinating. I think we're going to see really rapid growth of AI influenced music and generative music. And because of that, we might eventually also see an undercurrent of more acoustic based music to sort of like combat that. Like, okay, enough of the generative music that's just using AI. Here's just me and an acoustic guitar. And I don't know, there's something exciting about that for me too, personally.
Well, you heard it here first. Check back with us next year. We'll be back on Inside Music Curation. We just try to talk about all sorts of issues that come up in music curation, from genres to albums, working with different businesses. So please do subscribe. Check us out at feedmediagroup.com and grab a copy of our end of year wellness and workout music report. Thank you so much, Armando, Matt, Claire, Juan, Mike, for sharing your expertise, and can't wait to dive into next year and see what we come up with. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.